Hello everyone. So we are going to start the part 2, that is the arteriosclerosis. So till now we have discussed about the hypercholesterolemia, and now the second part, it is the arteriosclerosis. So first of all, we should know that what is arteriosclerosis. So it is also known as arteriosclerosis or ASVD. ASVD stands for the arteriosclerotic vascular disease, right? So it is a clinical condition where the arteries, it becomes tough or stiff so that it don't allow the flow of the blood, right? Now, by the virtue of definition, you can see that, or you can explain it as the condition in which the artery wall it thickens. In this condition, the artery wall it thickens as a result of, why it becomes thickened? As a result of build-up of fatty acid material like your cholesterol. When this cholesterol, they build up in the artery, they form the atherosclerotic plaque, right? First of all, next, actually it affects the arterial blood vessels, basically a chronic inflammatory response in the walls of the arteries. So basically it's a disorder which happens in the artery wall, right, by the virtue of deposition of the cholesterol. Moreover, apart from the cholesterol, what else we do have? So we should know that due to the accumulation of the macrophages, I hope you know what is macrophage. Is a type of WBC. So macrophage WBC, which is actually promoted by the low density lipoprotein. So both these macrophages as well as low density lipoprotein, they accumulated in the site, and which leads to the formation of arteriosclerosis. So you can see here, actually what is this written there? Actually, due to the accumulation of macrophages, white blood cells, and promoted by low density lipoprotein without adequate removal of the fats, the fats cannot be removed. When this fat cannot be removed by these cells, then these conditions it occurs. So arteriosclerosis occurs when the blood vessels that carry the oxygen and nutrients from the heart to the rest of the body. What carries the nutrients from the heart? Basically it is the artery, right? When it becomes thick and stiff, then this arteriosclerosis, actually this particular condition, it occurs. Moreover, the healthy arteries are, you should know that the healthy arteries are generally flexible and elastic. So why it is flexible and elastic? First of all, see, the arteries of human body, they should be always flexible and elastic because the heart, it pumps, it generates thrust on the blood. The heart pumps the blood with a great pressure or force through this artery, because the heart, it is lying where you know that, right? So from the heart, if the blood, it needs to reach the last peripheral region, suppose if the blood, it needs to reach our tip of the finger of the leg, then the force should be high, right? Because the distance is more. So this blood, actually it is forced with a very high pressure, and this pressure, it is nothing but it is actually the blood pressure. Now you see here, what is the structure of a normal blood vessels? So you can see here, this is the artery. It's a normal artery. So basically the artery have three structure. First of all, if we start from the outside, it is known as the tunica adventitia, or it is also known as the tunica externa. It is generally made up of collagen fiber, right? So this is the outer part of the artery, right? Moreover, in the middle you have the tunica media. So in the middle, the tunica media, it is made up of the smooth muscle cells, which are also known as the SMC, and elastic fibers. This elastic fiber actually helps in the flexibility or elasticity of the artery. And the inner layer, it is known as the tunica intima. It is made up of the endothelium, right? So basically, see, the vessel, it is having three layers. We know that intima, media, and adventitia. In place of adventitia, you can also write externa. Moreover, these are present to some extent in all vessels. Actually, this structure it is common to all vessels, and most apparent this structure it is most prominent in the larger arteries and veins. Now, the normal blood vessels. You see here, I am showing you the normal blood vessel. So here, these are the wall of the vena or the veins, and this is the wall of the artery. So basically, you have this, first of all, this tunica externa, then the tunica media, then tunica interna. So here you see in the tunica media, actually here we have the smooth muscles. As these are the smooth muscles. As these are actually lined up with a external elastic membrane. So this is the elastic membrane which gives the flexibility as well as elasticity to the artery. But here you see the amount of the tunica media, it is less because the veins they generally have low amount of the pressure, as the blood when it comes to the heart back from the peripheral tissue, it have always a low pressure, right? So basically you see the blood vessel walls, we have the three layers. First of all is the tunica intima. I have already told you it is composed of the endothelium and subendothelial layer, right? Next we have the tunica media. The tunica media, it have the smooth muscles and the elastin, and in the last one, that is known as the tunica adventitia, that is the outer one. This is also known as tunica externa, and it is generally made up of connective tissue and TM, it is the tunica media. And moreover, it have the arterioles in larger vessels, right? The next part, you see there always exists a difference between the walls, right? So we should know that the arterial walls are always thicker in comparison to that of the veins. Why? Because they need to carry the blood in a high pressure. So you see here the structure I am showing you here, it is the structure of the artery, and whereas this is the structure of the vein. Now going to the next slide. So what are the classes of the arteries, right? So as artery, they are responsible for carrying out or taking away the fresh blood which contains the nutrients as well as the oxygen to the rest of the bodies. So these arteries, they are being classified or subdivided into different types. So let's start with the classes of the arteries. So first of all, these arteries, first of all, the first part, it is the elastic arteries. So these elastic arteries, they are always assembled near to the heart, means they remain always close to the heart because they need to function in the, or they need to first get exposed to the high pressure of the blood which is sent by the heart, right? Next we have the muscular. The muscular arteries are also known as the distributing arteries because they generally distribute the nutrients to the different parts of the tissue, right? So these have actually, these muscular arteries, they have a thick tunica media. The next is the arterioles. Upon division of these arteries, they forms the arterioles. The diameter, it is of the arteries, it is generally regulated by the vasoconstriction as well as the dilation which is appearing in the tissue. Moreover, now you see the atherosclerosis affects mainly the elastic and muscular arteries. I repeat, the atherosclerosis, it generally affect the elastic as well as the muscular arteries, right? And hypertension affects small muscular arteries and arterioles. You should know the differences. So in the hypertension, basically the small muscular arteries and arterioles, they get affected. Now you see here I am showing you the normal coronary artery. This is the normal one. This is the atherosclerosis. You can see the deposition of fats here, and this is the atherosclerosis with a blood clot. So upon the lapse of time, when the treatment it is not being done, then the blood spot can occur there. Now atherosclerosis, what is that? We know that atherosclerosis is a disease of large and medium sized muscular arteries, right? And it is characterized by, what are the characteristics? First of all, the endothelial dysfunction will happen there, endothelial dysfunction in the endothelial layer, right? Moreover, vascular inflammation will happen in the case of atherosclerosis. Apart from that, build-up of lipids, cholesterol, calcium, and other cell debris will take place. And finally, it is characterized by intimal lesion called the atheromas. This atheromas will form in the artery, which will finally lead to the formation of the atherosclerosis, right? Now, you should know what is atheromatous plaque or plaque. Basically, by definition, you can see here in this diagram, I am showing you the yellow part. This is nothing but it is the cholesterol, and these are the that RBCs, they are flowing, right? Now, you should know here, you should see here, these yellow, these are the cholesterol, right? Here, slight ulceration, actually slight bulging first takes place, and this is the ulceration. When these RBCs, they get stuck here, they cause the ulceration here. So this is the layer how it forms here. So this is the artery actually, right? Now you see an atheromatous plaque. It consists of a raised lesion. It have a raised lesion. It is a raised lesion, right? With a soft yellow. This is the soft yellow. It is made up of the cholesterol, covered by a firm white fibrous cap, right? This is the first thing you should know. Moreover, besides obstructing the blood flow, it will obstruct the blood flow because you can see here the size of the pipe. If we consider this is a pipe, the size of the pipe, the diameter of the pipe, it has declined, right? It is decreasing here, right? Now, besides obstructing the blood flow, the atherosclerotic plaques weaken the underlying media. So this is the tunica media. It makes it weak. This atherosclerotic plaque, actually it makes the tunica media weak, right? And can themselves rupture, causing acute thrombosis, and sometimes they get ruptured, right? Now you see here what will be the condition or consequences. So basically you see the atherosclerosis primarily affects the elastic arteries. What are the elastic arteries in the body? Basically the aorta, the carotid arteries, then the iliac arteries, right? Now the large and medium sized muscular arteries, they are also get affected, like coronary and popliteal arteries. And in small arteries, the atheromas can gradually occlude the lumina comprising the blood flow to the distal organ, causing a ischemic injury. Now, what is ischemic injury? Ischemic injury is nothing but deprivation of the blood flow. If the heart wall, they are not receiving the adequate amount of the blood flow, that is known as a ischemic conditions, means lack of blood flow. Now you see the atherosclerosis can also take a toll through other consequences, acutely or chronically. It can lead to mesenteric occlusion, sometimes sudden cardiac death. It can occur due to this atherosclerosis, or sometimes chronic ISD disease. The ISD stands for ischemic heart disease and ischemic encephalopathy. So these are the conditions actually which will progress in the body if it is not cured at the time. Moreover, what are the risk factors for the atherosclerosis? So first of all, you should know that major risk factors which are non-modifiable, means this cannot be modified. First of all, you see increasing age, as we have already discussed in our previous slide, that with the increasing age, the amount of the cholesterol deposition in the body, it increases, right? The male gender, the male, they generally deposit more amount of the fat as compared to that of the woman, but the condition is that the woman, if she is under the age of menopause, then she will have less amount of the cholesterol, but once she will enter the age of post-menopause, then the amount of the fat also it increases in the woman. The next one, it is the family history. If the person is having a family history of the atherosclerosis, the person is definitely going to get or have a chance of developing the atherosclerosis. Next one, it is the genetic abnormalities which are similar as compared to that of the cholesterol, or you have what we have discussed earlier, that these genes which are responsible for the deposition, storage and utilization of the fats, it solely depend on the genetic, or you can say on the heredity. The next one, it is a laser or you can say uncertain risk. What are the lesser uncertain risks? Obesity, it is one of the risks. Then physical inactivity, if you are not performing any sort of physical activity, then you have a chance to develop the atherosclerosis. Moreover, postmenopausal estrogen deficiency in women. Then high carbohydrate intake, if the person is taking high amount of carbohydrate, he has the chances of developing the atherosclerosis. Then we have the lipoproteins, right, basically the LDL. Then we have the hardened or trans unsaturated fat intake, if you take high amount of the unsaturated fat. That sometimes also occurs due to the pneumonia infection, which is generally caused by the chlamydia. Moreover, the potentially controllable, these are some of the risk factors which can be controlled. So basically hyperlipidemia, yes, we can control it by balancing our diet. If we take less amount of the fats in our diet, we can control the hyperlipidemia. Next is the hypertension. We can control our hypertension, our blood pressure, by doing regular exercises. Then we have the cigarette smoking, which is definitely injurious to your health. If we quit smoking, then the chances of developing the atherosclerosis, it comes down. Then we have the diabetes. It is a contributing factor in the development of atherosclerosis. Then C-reactive protein. Now, age as a risk factor. Is it? Yes, is it? It is, sorry. Yes, the age, it is a risk factor. Why? First of all, age is having a dominant influence. I have already told you, with the developing age, the amount of the cholesterol, it goes on depositing, right? So first of all, you see the accumulation of the atherosclerotic plaque. It is typically a progressive process, and it develops throughout your lifetime until and unless it reaches the critical threshold. But once it has reached the threshold, begin to precipitate in the organ injury in the middle age or later. The next one, the age between 40 and 60. So nowadays, the person who are in the age group between 40 and 60, they generally have the more tendency to develop the atherosclerotic plaque in them. Moreover, the death rate from the ISD rises with each decade, even into advanced age. ISD means the ischemic heart disease, right? Now gender. So are they equal? Till reaching the age of menopause, they are not equal, but afterwards they are equal. So premenopausal women are relatively protected against atherosclerosis. I have already told you, but after attaining the age of postmenopause, means afterwards the chances of getting it increases. So, the myocardial infarction and other complications of atherosclerosis are uncommon in premenopausal women. You should remember that. But in postmenopausal women, or the women who are suffering from diabetes, hyperlipidemia, or severe hypertension, they have the chances of developing the atherosclerotic plaque in them. After the menopause, the incidence of atherosclerosis, it rises, it exceeds than that of the man in women. Now, genetics, how it is associated. The familial disposition to atherosclerosis and ISD is multifactorial. Many factors are associated, like the genes which are actually responsible for the fat digestion, fat production, or fat distribution. They have contributing effect on development of atherosclerosis, right? In some instances, it relates to the familial clustering and other risk factors such as hypertension and diabetes. So suppose if the patient, or if the person, father or mother, he or she is suffering from diabetes or hypertension, definitely the chances of developing the hypertension and diabetes increases in the patient or in the child, and which indirectly it is associated with the development of atherosclerosis plaque, right? Now, in other, it involves a well-defined genetic dearrangement in the lipoprotein metabolism, which I have already discussed. These genes actually, they are responsible for the metabolism of lipids, their utilization of the lipids and distribution of the lipids. Now, hyperlipidemia, it's a condition where the amount of the lipids increases in the body, right? So hyperlipidemia, so it is specifically, it is a major risk factor for development of the atherosclerosis, right? Even in absence of other risk factor. For example, other risk factor we have already discussed, the obesity and all, they have the chances of developing the atherosclerotic plaque if the patient is suffering from hyperlipidemia. Now the major component, what is a major component? It's the bad cholesterol. Definitely it's the LDL, which is responsible for the development of the atherosclerotic plaque. Moreover, this LDL actually they have an essential role in delivering the cholesterol to the peripheral tissues, and thus they can make the plaque throughout the body. And in contrast to that, the HDL, if we have high amount of the HDL in our blood, then definitely the chances of developing the atherosclerotic plaque, it decreases, because this HDL actually they helps in the mobilization of the cholesterol from the different tissue to the liver for excretion as a bile, right? So the higher levels of the HDL, it correlates with the reduced risk of developing the atherosclerosis. The next part, it is the pathogenesis of the atherosclerosis. So how the steps it increases. So I am going with a theory that has been given by different scientists. From time to time this theory has been accepted. So let's start. So first of all, the theory, it is nothing but actually it's a hypothesis. It's a response to injury hypothesis. So as per the theory, this development, it actually occurs due to the or as a response to the injury that occurs in the arteries, right? So first of all, this model actually it views that this particular model, this theory, it views that the chronic inflammatory response which actually occurs in the endothelial wall or due to the endothelial injury, it is responsible for development of the atherosclerosis, right? Apart from that, the lesion progression, then when this lesion of atherosclerosis has developed, the lesion progression, it occurs through the interaction of modified lipoproteins like LDL, monocyte derived macrophages, right, T lymphocyte and other normal cellular constituent of the arterial wall. So all this combinedly they helps in the development of the atherosclerotic plaque, right? The endothelial injury. So let's start with the endothelial injury. So basically initial triggering, it is the first or the foremost step, initial triggering event in the development of atherosclerotic lesion. So initially endothelial injury need to start or need to happen. This is the first step as per this hypothesis, right? Next, initial injury actually it causes, what it will cause, it will lead to the endothelial injury, which injury may include the mechanical trauma. You have got some sort of mechanical injury or hemodynamic forces or sometimes immunological or chemical mechanism, right? Or metabolic agent like chronic hyperlipidemia or homocysteine, circulating toxins. These are different types of the products, factors which generally helps in the development of the lesions. Apart from that, consumption of tobacco product is one of them. Now the next, it is the intimal smooth muscle cell proliferation. Now the smooth muscle cells which are associated with the endothelium, they are now going to proliferate, they are now going to grow, right? So what actually happens? See, endothelial injury actually it causes the adherence of the aggregation. So once you have got injury, then immediately aggregation or adherence at that particular place, adherence means attaching of the platelet will take place, right, at the site of the exposed endothelial connective tissue, right? Now apart from that, this will lead to the proliferation of the intimal smooth cells. Now these smooth cells of the intimal regions, they will start proliferating, right, by various mitogens released from the platelets adherent at the site of the endothelial injury. Apart from that, the mitogen which includes the growth of the intimal cells, these are some of the mitogens. First of all, you have the platelet derived growth factor. This is the most important, PDGF. Apart from that, you have the fibroblast growth factor and TNF alpha. Now what is TNF alpha? It is nothing but it is a cell signaling molecule. TNF alpha, it represents the tumor necrosis factor alpha, right? Now the proliferation is also facilitated by nitric oxide and endothelin released from the endothelial cells. So nitric oxide, what is the function of the nitric oxide? I hope you people know. It is actually nothing but it helps in the relaxation of the vascular you can say vessels, or you can say artery or vein, whatever it is, and endothelin released from the endothelial cells. This endothelin also do the same function. Now, if we continue with the pathogenesis of the atherosclerosis, so you can see here the overall chart, what actually happens, the event, what are generally taking place here. It is, you should remember one thing, actually the cholesterol, you can see here, it is coming out here, right? The first thing, it is the macrophage, they are going to attack here. This macrophage, they are going to engulf the cholesterol to they are going to form the foam cells, and these foam cells, it is playing the crucial role in the development of the atherosclerotic plaque. So first of all, the role of blood monocyte. Though the blood monocyte do not possess the receptor for normal LDL, we know that, but LDL does appear in the monocyte cytoplasm to form the foam cell. This is the first thing, this foam cell will form. All right, next thing you should know that the plasma LDL means the plasma low density lipoprotein on entry into the intima. Once this plasma LDL, they are going to enter the intima, they immediately undergoes oxidation. This is the second step, right? Now this oxidized LDL, once this LDL they get oxidized, they formed in the intima is readily taken up by the scavenger on the monocyte to transform it to the lipid laden foam cell. So first of all, this LDL, they are going to get oxidized. Once this LDL are going to, means they are going to get oxidized, this will be now, this oxidized LDL will be taken up by this monocyte, and they are going to form the foam cells. The next step, it is that the oxidized LDL now stimulates the release of growth factor. So growth factor will be released, cytokine will be released, as well as chemokines by the endothelial cells. So these three things, immediately the oxidized LDL, it is going to stimulate the release of the growth factor, cytokines and chemokines from the endothelial cells. So this is the third step, and the macrophages that increases the monocyte recruitment into the lesion. So this is the way how it is going to start or develop the atherosclerotic plaque, right? Now this oxidized LDL is cytotoxic to the EC and smooth muscle cells. So you see, it is nothing but this is the endothelial cells actually, right? It can induce the endothelial dysfunction actually. Now again, if we see the pathogenesis, so here I am showing you stepwise how the steps generally takes place. This is the normal one. So you can see here the platelets and the monocytes has come, they has entered, right? They have taken up the oxidized LDL. Now they are contributing in formation of the bulge, right? So basically you see here the role of hyperlipidemia. So chronic hyperlipidemia itself may initiate the endothelial injury. If you are on hyperlipidemia, this hyperlipidemia, it initiate the process of the endothelial injury and dysfunction, causing the increased permeability. So hyperlipidemia, it increases the permeability of the platelets as well as the monocytes into the wall of the arteries, right? The next thing you should know that the increased serum concentration of LDL and VDL, if the amount of the LDL and VDL in the serum it increases, it promotes the formation of the foam cells. So these are the foam cells, right? Foam cells. While high serum concentration of HDL, it is anti-atherogenic effect. So if the HDL amount it is increasing in the blood or in the body, then definitely the chances of developing the atherosclerotic plaque, it decreases. Now the progression of atherosclerosis, so how it is going to progress. So first of all, see the formation of the fatty streaks. What are fatty streaks? Fatty streaks are nothing but streaks, you know what are streaks. So fatty streaks are composed of generally lipid filled foam cells. I already told you how they are going to form. The fatty streak have the lipid filled foam cells, and they are not significantly raised, so they do not cause any disturbance in the blood flow. This is the initial stage. So first of all, you are going to form the fatty streaks, right? Now this fatty streak can appear in the aortas of younger infants, which is having a age of more than 1 year, and it generally appears in all type of people, right? So it is the initial state actually. Now the relationship of the fatty streaks to the atherosclerotic plaque is definitely uncertain. We cannot give a final conclusion so that these fatty sticks are going to develop atherosclerotic plaque in the coming time, but they have some sort of relationship, although they may involve in the precursor of the plaques, because these fatty sticks, they generally involve in the formation of the precursor of the plaque, and in the advanced stage they definitely forms the atherosclerotic lesions. Next we have the atherosclerotic plaque. So this is the key processes in the atherosclerosis are intimal thickening. So I repeat, intimal thickening and lipid accumulation. This is the key processes for the development of atherosclerotic plaque. So the atheromatous plaque, which is also known as the fibrofatty acid plaque, right, it impinges on the lumen of the artery and glossy appearance. It gives a grossly appear of the white to yellow. So it definitely the artery now will appear yellowish in color due to the high deposition of the cholesterol in the intima, right. Now the plaque, they vary from 0.3 to 1.5 centimeter in the diameter, but they can coalesce to form the larger masses. So with the time they are going to form a larger mass. These actually, with the passage of the time, they are going to form a larger means atherosclerotic plaque. Now components of the atherosclerotic plaque. So what are the components? So first of all, let's start with the components. So basically they have the three principal components. First of all, the cells. What are the cells? The first, it is the SMC, the smooth muscle cells. They are going to get first involved, then the macrophages, then the T cells. They are going to involved in the formation of atherosclerotic plaque, first of all. Next, the ECM, right. The ECM, it includes the collagen, elastic fiber and proteoglycans, right. Then the third one, it is the intracellular and extracellular lipids. So these three, they contribute to the formation of the atherosclerotic plaque. Now these components occurs in varying proportion and configuration in different lesions. So you cannot justify that the increase in the component 1 or increase in the component 2 or increase in the component 3, it is definitely, or it is going to contribute in the formation of the atherosclerotic plaque, but they have different proportion. Now changes in the atherosclerotic plaque. So first of all, you see atherosclerotic plaques, they are susceptible to the following pathologic changes with the clinical significance. What are the changes? First of all, rupture, ulceration or erosion. I have already told you how it is going to rupture or ulcerate or erosion by the different cells, right. Next, hemorrhage takes place, bleeding. Next, atheroembolism, it's the bulging out. Actually, it's the bulging out. The embolism is the bulging out. Then you have aneurysm. Similarly, aneurysm, actually it is nothing but it is the ballooning, it is the blowing of the size of the artery, right. Then the atherosclerosis, it is a slowly involving lesion, usually requiring many decades to become significant. So you cannot justify at your present age that you are going to develop the atherosclerotic lesion in the coming future. But yes, if your diet and your physical activity and other contributing factor, they are going to determine whether you are going to suffer from atherosclerosis in the near future or not. So however, the acute plaque changes can rapidly precipitate clinical sequelae. So if the plaque formation, it is means if the plaque formation it has rapidly taken, then the clinical consequences will be different. Like, so it is also known as the clinical horizon. So what are the symptoms of atherosclerosis? So basically, you see, symptomatic atherosclerotic disease does not involve the arteries supplying the heart, brain, kidney and the lower extremities. I repeat, symptomatic atherosclerotic disease, those diseases of the atherosclerosis which are showing the symptoms, they never involve the arteries which are supplying the blood to the heart, brain, kidney or lower extremities, first of all. Moreover, myocardial infarctions, that is the heart attack, cerebral infarction, that is a stroke or aortic aneurysm, or peripheral vascular disease, it is also known as the gangrene of the legs. These are the major consequences of the atherosclerosis. So if you are on atherosclerosis, right, then you can develop the chances of heart attack, or you can develop the chances of stroke, even gangrene in the legs. So lastly, although it was a very lengthy class, but I'd like to thank each and everyone for your patience hearing. If you like the video, press this like icon. You can share this video with your classmates and colleagues, and for the further notification from this channel, you can press the bell icon. So thank you once again.